You okay there, Derek?
Things are not great in Arizona sports, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as somebody that is really tired of talking about his hair. This guy next to me, he's my vice mayor. He's got my hair back. It's the Thunderstick Jesse Friedman.
We thought you might be on TV for a hot second there, Derek.
We thought today they were going to do a side-by-side with me and Lourdes.
There was talk.
There was talk of that. And Nick Schultz says D-backs lost, Suns getting steamrolled. Yes, that's existence as an Arizona sports fan is pain, Jerry. Welcome in, though. Of course, the Diamondbacks did lose to the Marlins by a score of 6-2. They do have a chance still to close out the series with a series win, which would be very nice tomorrow and tomorrow's getaway game. But tonight's game was very important, obviously, because it was Pfaadt Tuesday, and it was Brandon Pfaadt's second career start after he struggled against the Texas Rangers. We were all waiting to see him rebound against a Marlins team that has not produced very much offense and has not been very good at the dish lately, and that was not the case tonight. The Marlins, the very first hit of the night, the very first pitch of the night, Jazz Chisholm hit for a single that he turned into a double with a steal and scored right away in the first inning. And the Diamondbacks were down before they even had the bat in their hands and never had a chance to really bounce back after that.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that all major league hitters can hit center cut fastballs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the Texas Rangers thing.
Would.
I know
It's
some. I
incredible.
guess some of their, most of their big hits. I think all three of their homers were on breaking pitches. Today it was a little bit more of Pfaadt's four-seamer that got hit, but the point still stands from Pfaadt's last start. If you throw pitches in exceptionally hittable locations, it doesn't matter, if you're Jonah Heim, who has an OPS of 950 somehow for the Texas Rangers, or if you're a guy like Jorge Soler, who's sort of been off to a rough start so far for the Miami Marlins, you're going to do your damage on those kinds of pitches. And Brandon Pfaadt left some pitches once again in some terrible locations. And
I mean, he even got away with quite a bit tonight where he was just throwing fastballs right down the middle. And then at one point, he just abandoned his fastball altogether later on in the outing. Like, it wasn't all terrible. Brandon Pfaadt did settle in nicely in the third and fourth inning, but we didn't get to see him continue that into the fifth because he had another rough inning in the fifth. But things started off bad right away. Jorge Soler, who I ironically enough commented to Jesse, hasn't been hitting very well when he came up for his first at bat. We know how that went now.
You're the one who said that.
I am
Derek.
the one apparently who does all the cursing around here, but that he had 2 home runs off of Pfaadt, and it was just a rough outing. And like you said, when he wasn't kind of out of the strike zone, he was dead center, and there wasn't a lot of edges, there wasn't a lot of corners being caught. It really felt like he was just catching a tremendous amount of the plate, especially with his fastball.
Yeah, and I mean there were still some good signs in there for Brandon Pfaadt. He had 13 whiffs in the game, which is a pretty decent number. 4 whiffs on 13 swings on his slider, 4 whiffs on 6 swings on his changeup. Those are good numbers, and they were pretty good numbers the last time around too. I think he was even a little bit better today at throwing pitches in some spots where he could get swings and misses. That was kind of something we pinpointed the last time around, is you don't want to be throwing those sliders and changeups right over the middle of the plate. And you also don't want to throw them, so far out of the strike zone that nobody's going to swing at them. There were some pitches in this game where Pfaadt threw those pitches right where he wanted to. The slider and the changeup, there were some that were well located that did get the whiffs that you would hope for. The problem, like we said earlier, is it doesn't matter how many good pitches, well located breaking pitches right out of the strike zone that you throw. It only takes a few mistakes, to set things up for an offense really well. And for Pfaadt tonight, it was more than a few. I mean, it felt like every at bat there were multiple pitches that were just middle, and you're going to get away with those every once in a while, but you're not going to get away with them consistently, even against the Miami Marlins offense that has, been one of the worst in the game so far.
That's the thing, is even bad major league pitching or hitting is still much, much better than even good minor league hitting, right? So Brandon Pfaadt can sometimes get away with those 95, 96 mile per hour fastballs right down the middle in minor leagues, but they're just not, missing it at a major league level. it's not just Pfaadt though. The team was just poorly performed tonight, flat out. And I mean, there were several facets that they were bad at. Defensively, they were very bad. And I mean, I guess not even very bad, you could say, but like when they play,
wouldn't say the defense was so bad.
Well, okay, here's what I will say. When you play exceptional defense, you come to expect exceptional defense at all times, right? We saw Corbin Carroll miss a couple of balls out there in the outfield that looked like he could have made the plays on them, but they would have been hard plays to make. It's not like they were easy plays to make, but there were, I think, 2, maybe even 3, balls that he made an honest effort at getting and just wasn't able to get there. And like, again, that was some of probably the newness and growing pains of Corbin Carroll being in center field now.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was, I don't know if it was some confusion between him and Dominic Fletcher on one of those plays, but there was that. And again, I'm not knocking his defense. I'm not saying he didn't misplay balls that he obviously should have caught, but we just expect someone like Carroll with his speed and what we've seen out of him already to make these highlight reel style catches and make them consistently. And when he doesn't, it seems like that. But also, Gabriel Moreno couldn't get Jazz stealing once, twice, but third time's the charm. He got him. No, it wasn't the third time.
No, it was John Birdie. Who was stealing.
Couldn't get Jazz though. Jazz got 2 steals tonight on Gabby Moreno. So, and then the offense was kind of just missing in action as well.
Yeah, I mean the offense somehow had 11 hits. The D-backs actually out-hit the Marlins in this game. But it was, you talk about like scattering hits, and that's sort of what this felt like. The D-backs just kind of scattered the hits. Yeah. They never really strung together an inning. They were still able to push across a couple of runs. But this game was decided basically in the second inning when the Marlins took a 4-0 lead. The D-backs offense only able to push across 2 runs. I wouldn't really worry about that. I mean, this Diamondbacks offense, frankly, has been performing out of their minds for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they still got 11 hits in this game, like they continue to put hits on the board. But you're going to have days like this where you just kind of scatter those hits around and you're unable to really string anything together. So no real concerns for me for the D-backs offense, but yes, this was not just all on Brandon Pfaadt. The D-backs as a whole did not play a great game. And frankly, even if Brandon Pfaadt had given you, 6 innings, 3 runs, like a pretty solid outing, you're probably still losing this game.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know. I don't know when it gets to a point where you try extra hard in a close game. I've noticed that the Diamondbacks don't really do well when they're trying extra hard, but maybe if the game was in a little bit of closer reach than being down by 4 runs, that second Soler home run just let the little air that was in the building at Chase Field out, because there were not many people.
It was a 3-2 count. There was a runner at second base. You could make a pretty good case that there was no reason to pitch to Jorge Soler in that spot. I think it was a slider that he hit out.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a center cut slider. Like, some of his pitches weren't quite squarely middle. They were maybe like middle down.
Yeah.
But just like there were so many pitches for Brandon Pfaadt in this game that were right in very hittable locations. And we kind of knew that if Brandon Pfaadt is going to struggle in a big league game, this is what it's going to look like. It's not going to be Brandon Pfaadt going out there and walking 6 and having a pitch count of 87 in the 3rd inning. It's going to be Brandon Pfaadt getting just too much of the strike zone and getting knocked around and probably giving up a couple of home runs. And that's the version of him that we've seen in these first 2 starts. Personally, Derek, moving forward, I wouldn't be overly concerned with what I've seen from Brandon Pfaadt so far. Number one, his body language, you could just tell. I think he's nervous. I think he's just kind of struggling a little bit to adapt and settle down. I think that's something that will come with time. The other thing is that, it's 2 starts, right? So there's a certain level of you probably shouldn't be overreacting anyway.
I want to overreact. I overreact. It's what I do. Look at my purple hair. I overreact to everything.
And the last thing that I would say about Pfaadt is that, I mean, this is just kind of like I said earlier. I mean, this is what it's going to look like when Brandon Pfaadt struggles. And I mean, in any situation where you have a pitcher throwing as many center cut pitches as he did, you're going to get hit, right? It's just going to happen. And so I almost feel like we haven't really gained any information here. All we know is that when Brandon Pfaadt throws his stuff right down the middle, it gets hit. And it was always going to be the case that if Brandon Pfaadt threw his stuff right down the middle, it was going to get hit. And so far, we have only confirmed that.
This is the top-notch analysis that you get by watching this show.
Right, exactly. I'm just saying Brandon Pfaadt in the minors was good because he wasn't throwing his stuff in these locations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Brandon Pfaadt was able to paint corners consistently, especially last season in the minors. And that's where all of the hype came from. Yeah. Like this guy is a control and command artist. And he just hasn't done that. And you kind of figure that because of what he showed in the minors, eventually he's going to find a way to translate that to the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things about Brandon Pfaadt. One thing that we were told today by not just one person, but by several people is that the entire time they've been around Pfaadt, he is just cool as the other side of the pillow. He does not ever, he might have a bad outing, but he doesn't have a bad day, is what I was told, right? And there's just something about him that he's kind of always, he doesn't ever seem rattled. So you might not know when he's extremely nervous, because even though he might be nervous, he's not showing it. It feels like a lot of what we've seen so far is nerves. It is interesting because Brent Strom has been very big on their pitchers throwing their fastball high in the strike zone, and we are definitely not really seeing that out of Brandon Pfaadt. Brandon Pfaadt, everything that he had was low in the zone, or right in down the middle. Like he wasn't able to really get his fastball up and elevate, just the strike zone, stretch that strike zone.
Yeah.
But I do think that, while it feels like I want to panic, while it feels like there's a lot of concern here, the fact of the matter is that this is what the problem is with having as many young pitchers in your starting rotation as the Diamondbacks do.
Very true.
You just don't know what you're going to get out of them. And honestly, in this case, you could tell the Marlins had a game plan against Pfaadt. They came out and they were aggressive right out of the gate. They knew Pfaadt was going to throw strikes, and they knew he was going to throw it right down the middle. You could just tell by Jazz's contact with the very first pitch of the game. So I don't know. I think that there are a lot of things to build on, we're going to talk here about Brent Strom. We had a press conference with Brent Strom today. He's just one of the most fascinating people to talk to.
He is fascinating.
And so we have a lot to talk about when it comes to that, including some very interesting comments on Madison Bumgarner. But everything that Brent Strom today said that Brandon Pfaadt did poorly in the start against the Rangers and that he needed to improve on was the exact same faults that he had in this game, essentially. Right?
Yeah. And that's why, Michael, that's pretty much what we're saying, right? He has to work corners with his stuff. And it's obvious to everyone that if he lives right down the middle, he's going to get destroyed. Right. So I still feel like, I think he's just really struggled with the stage a little bit and the nerves and just kind of getting himself to calm down. So hopefully he's able to overcome that. I do think Marky Mark makes a valid point, talking about the young pitchers that you just mentioned. One got sent down, the other three have borderline infinity ERAs. There's some truth to that, right? Dre Jameson is in Reno. Brandon Pfaadt, Tommy Henry, and Ryan Nelson have all struggled mightily this season. Yeah. And we came into the year, right, with a lot of hype built up around those four guys.
Yeah.
Right? Dre Jameson and Ryan Nelson sub-2 ERAs last year in their first taste of the majors. Brandon Pfaadt, one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. You thought you might have like two number 2 starters in there or something. And so far what the D-backs have gotten is just not even a major league caliber level of performance. And like you said earlier, when you're relying this much on young guys, there's some risk that that's going to happen. There's some risk that guys you think are going to be number 2 starters wind up not being major league caliber starters at all. And we're not to that point yet by any stretch of the imagination. It's still very early, but the results that this early in the season have been very poor for those guys.
And I do want to defend our position here a bit on Brandon Pfaadt, just because we are as baffled, not really baffled, like we know what he's doing wrong, but we're baffled about why it's happening as everyone else is. And we've had a couple of people come at us and kind of be like, this was the guy you hyped up. Let me tell you.
Yeah, we were the only ones.
We were the only ones. Everybody was excited about Brandon Pfaadt. And I think that there's still reason to be. Like, we shouldn't give up on baseball players, especially young kids like this, just because their first few starts go awry, right?
And even if he has to get sent down too, like the D-backs aren't going to let Brandon Pfaadt have these kind of outings, for long 6-7 times. Yeah. Like
they don't want to wreck his confidence. They don't want to completely throw off his progression.
At a certain point, you don't want to do that. So we'll see what Torey Lovullo says after the game. My guess is the D-backs will still have Pfaadt take his start against the San Francisco Giants, which would line up for Sunday. But yeah, they're not going to let him go through this forever. And there are a lot of great starting pitchers in this league that came up and just didn't have it and struggled on this stage and had to get sent back down to work on things. And the other thing, just real quick, is Brandon Pfaadt was never necessarily, a number one starter. He was never, I think when people saw him on the prospect list and whatnot, where he was, there was this tendency to assume that he had ace caliber stuff, Correct. That he was a top of the rotation, Max Scherzer-esque. Brandon Pfaadt is a extraordinarily good pitching prospect, but a lot of it was because of how well he's able to locate the ball, the fact that he has a good mix of pitches, and he knows how to use them, right? It wasn't necessarily that Brandon Pfaadt is going to come in and blow you away with 100 miles an hour and this crazy movement on a slider and a curveball, or it wasn't really about that. It was just that he should be a really steady major league starter, and he still has a chance to do that, right? Just because he started off rough in these first two games doesn't necessarily say a whole lot.
Thunderbolt 47, you better be here in the good times too, man. Because if you're only here during the bad times to say stuff like this, what kind of life is that? Come on, let's all have a good time together. This sucks, but luckily there's a lot of baseball still left to play. 162 games total, believe it or not. And the Diamondbacks are still scheduled to win about a little bit more than half of those, which means there's still going to be a whole lot of losses.
And they're also 20-16, which is pretty darn good at this point in the season, despite what happened today.
I have fucking purple hair. Again, I didn't want to talk about it. This is the second time I mentioned it because of how good they were in April. And I still don't think that they've been very bad in May. I still don't think I'm getting that tattoo. And this loss helps kind of clinch that a little bit more for me. But I will say that the Diamondbacks still have a very easy month ahead of them. And there's still a lot of things to be happy about, including a goddamn home run snake. There is a home run snake in the fucking dugout now. That is Evan Longoria with it wrapped firmly around his neck. And it is exactly as we discussed, Jesse. We said we want big carnival/state fair stuffed snake, or we wanted a snake hat, or we wanted the Cobra Commander mask. This is good. I like this. I was there today when Nick Ahmed brought this in. I knew what it was the minute that I saw it, Jesse. There's a rattle on it, so it is a rattlesnake. So it does technically, even though has kind of a little bit of a leopard pattern to it, it still qualifies. No diamonds on it, but that's the thing about it is this is fucking cool, and I'm excited, even though today didn't go the way they wanted it to. I wanted to see that thing on lots of people today. I wanted to see it wrapped around the whole goddamn team, but
I do have to say that this is pretty funny because the other day we asked Christian Walker about the whole home run celebration thing that's taking Major League Baseball by storm, and he sort of made it sound like there might be something in the works, which of course we're seeing now. Yeah. But he also said that at this point, it feels like if we were to start having a home run celebration, that we would just be doing it because everyone else is. And that's kind of exactly what the Diamondbacks are doing. Like he just said that, and then he just kind of walked right into it, right? So
I guess.
I don't know. What do you make of that, Derek?
No, because this is the entire idea that if everybody else is having fun, that you shouldn't have fun because it's copying the fun everybody else is having. No,
right. If it's fun, it's fun. Everyone wants to get in on it, right?
I've emphatically wanted more celebrating because baseball is one of those sports where Major League is the worst at it. I mean, it's just gotten to the point where we have our stick up our asses so much about this game that like we're watching college and we're watching softball and we're watching WBC and we are literally looking outside like the meme of from Silicon Valley of just staring out the window watching other people have fun when we're not having fun in Major League Baseball. So I love the gladiator helmet that they're doing. I love everything that's happening with the home run celebrations. But yes, a giant stuffed snake definitely makes me feel excited about this. And That's the reason why around these parts we have a king snake, and that king snake is the same man with that snake wrapped around his shoulder. It is the one and only ageless wonder himself, Evan Longoria. Jesse, would you have imagined that we would have given this many king snakes to Evan Longoria at this point of the season as we have when we acquired him?
I mean, he hasn't even had that good of a season.
I
so
know.
Yes,
I'm just saying. We've probably given him 3 at least.
It does feel like, I mean, he's kind of been that way, though. Like, Evan Longoria hasn't really been like a steady 1 for 3, 2 for 4 kind of a guy.
Yeah,
he's sort of been
streaky.
like, either I'm going to have 3 hits, including a dinger, or I'm going to go like 0 for 5.
Yeah, with 3 strikeouts.
So that, I guess that lends itself to a disproportionate number of King Snake honors at the end of these shows.
Definitely.
But yeah, nice day for Evan Longoria. Good bounce back game for him. He continues to be an important weapon for this team against left-handed pitching. Clutch Canuck said earlier that he's just glad the team is facing a righty tomorrow.
He also said, has the team won a game when Longo goes long? Yikes. We might have to look that stat up.
I'm not sure that they have.
Going back, I need to take a step back.
It does feel like the King Snakes that he's won have all been in losses.
Right.
Yeah.
But he strings together good games and losses somehow.
Elizabeth, going back to the snake celebration, says, if it's stuffed, won't it absorb their sweat? Kind of gross.
Elizabeth's thinking about this way too much.
I can't stop thinking about it now, though. I don't know if I will not be able to sleep tonight without thinking about that. But anyway, that was still one of those games, as Tori Labola would say, we want to just flush and move on from, because you got to do that. But hope to see the home run snake out there for the day game tomorrow, 12:40 start for the finale. And the Diamondbacks, again, still have an opportunity to win this series against the Marlins and still prevent them from having lost more than 2. And one of those losses is to the Miami Marlins, so they got to do it, right? But I will say one way to enjoy this baseball game tomorrow afternoon is with our friends from OG's. They have a wide variety of flavors and doses and strains for you, whether you want a sativa, indica, hybrid. They got sleep edition gummies. They have their Happy Balance gummies. They have a wide variety of doses and strains, including their little micro doses as well. So if you just wanted to get a little bit of fun, you can do that with their different dosage sizes. So find them at your local dispensary at ogsbrands.com. Must be 21 or over to enjoy, and enjoy responsibly. And speaking of enjoying, I'm enjoying quite a few Four Peaks beers over here, because it's that kind of night with an Arizona sports team performing the way that all of our teams are, including the Coyotes getting 6th in the draft.
They didn't drop down, right? They just kind of held.
No, but my hair was supposed to once again bring luck, and now we're now in the darkest timeline. Now here we are.
The D-backs dropped down in the first ever MLB draft lottery, technically. So
anyway,
Coyotes have good luck compared to some people.
That's true. But you can have good luck by checking out Four Peaks. They'll bring you good luck anytime. You can get them wherever you get your beers. Get them at Circle K or all over the valley. Four Peaks is also appreciating teachers, because it's Four Peaks for teachers. Teacher Appreciation Week is this week. You can thank a teacher and nominate them to win grants, Four Peaks swag, and a grand prize of a custom makeover of their teacher's lounge at school. Go to fourpeaksforteachers.org to nominate a teacher. And you can also win yourself some D-backs tickets from Four Peaks. One lucky winner will get 4 seats to an upcoming Diamondbacks game. Tickets come with D-bucks, so you can grab some food, some ice cold Wow Wheat, or some Hop Knot. And you can enter by going to Four Peaks Brew on Instagram. The link is in our bio. You can check them out at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Must be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks, and please drink responsibly. Anyone can have the chicken tendies, though, at the 8th Street Pub. Which
we both had the chicken tendies at the ballpark today.
They're just not.
And I was like, they just
pub quality.
I'm like, yeah, normal like ballpark chicken tenders don't even taste good to me anymore, because Four Peaks utterly spoiled me. And I'm pretty close, Derek, to those being like the only chicken tenders that I'll eat.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that far away from that point.
I've seen you eat other ones, but you won't enjoy them. There's a difference.
Yeah,
He's going to bitch and complain the whole time about how bad they are compared to Four Peaks, and that definitely happened today.
That is fair. That is fair.
But another thing that happened today was we got to catch up with Brent Strom, which we don't get to do often. I will say this about Brent Strom. I adore that man and the amount of knowledge he has, and more importantly, how much he loves the game of baseball. When you start talking to him, especially the way that Evan Thompson and Barry Bloom and a couple of the guys that know all about old-timey baseball, man, when they start getting into the history stuff, you just saw Brent light up.
I swear they're just making up names.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. At times it seems like it. He also loves to quiz people because he's like, "Who got that last out in the 1971 World Series?"
He'll put you on the spot too.
It's kind of wild, but he also comes across like the kind of man that absolutely does not want to do a media session at all. Yet you get him in there in front of the podium, can't stop talking. He loves it. He's having a great time with us. But he had a lot to say. He had a lot to say, a lot of candid things to say. He had a lot of funny things to say. But he also talked quite a bit about Brandon Pfaadt, considering he was the big topic. He had some comments on Brandon Pfaadt's first start and what he has done well and what he hasn't done so
well. My takeaways with Brandon were the fact that this is a strike thrower who didn't run away from the strike zone, even though he got hit hard by a good hitting team and kept competing. I was hoping to get 5 out of him, and the inning got away from him a little bit. But I think he found out what it's like to pitch in the big leagues. It was an indoctrination, but I expect him to be much better tonight.
Yeah.
We expected him to be much better tonight too. So, but I mean, he's right though. I mean, there is some indoctrination there. There is some like you could see throughout the progression of this game that Pfaadt got just comfortable, and you had a couple of
you thought he got comfortable
in the third inning and fourth inning. Like he started to it felt like he got away from all the nerves and everything. Obviously the worst thing had happened already. He'd already given up 4 runs up to that point, and he really cruised through those 2 innings. And I honestly thought that might have been what we would see more, but it is more typical for an outing to go like that. Like, he dialed in for a little bit, but he couldn't maintain it for too long. He couldn't get through that third time in the rotation.
Third time through the order, strikes again. It's undefeated.
Yeah.
Well, not quite undefeated, but it sort of feels like it's undefeated.
What did you pick up there? Were you just thinking that they were just swinging at some bad stuff, or did you think that he kind of got dialed in there at least for a little bit in the middle of the outing?
There were definitely some pitches that were still in some bad spots, but like we said earlier, you're still gonna get some outs if you do that. I think he was better in those couple of innings, but I still don't know if I ever saw Brandon Pfaadt just like visually, more from a body language perspective, like settle in and kind of be himself.
Yeah.
I still think there were some nerves, and that's totally understandable. Like if I were, if I had pitched in Division II baseball and like not really been recruited whatsoever out of high school, and then, been put on not necessarily a big stage, but I think everyone knows that there are some expectations with Brandon Pfaadt that have come with all of the hype that we've seen over the last couple of years. And he's obviously aware of that. And I'm sure that as someone in his position, it's probably hard to ignore all of that and just kind of go out there and do your thing. We're probably seeing the effects of that right now.
Not everybody reacts to the hype the same way, right?
Yeah.
We've kind of been amazed by like Corbin Carroll's maturity and his ability to handle all of the wonderful things people are saying about him with kind of a grain of salt and just kind of go out there and still perform. And even Corbin would be the first one to tell you, like, none of that means anything if he doesn't go out there and do this stuff. So it's like all the talk is meaningless until you perform on the field, right? Brandon Pfaadt did get quite a bit of hype around him, and there's podcasts out there like that did stuff about him and like made videos about him and stuff, and like are you
blaming?
No,
are you saying that our video is responsible for his struggle so far?
There's just a lot of pressure placed on him, and we might have been one of the sources of the pressure. That's all I'm saying. But Matthew Mason, I think, hits the nail on the head here. He says it's hard not to panic about Brandon when you are an Arizona sports fan. We are so used to the worst possible outcome, and that's the truth, man.
It's understandable.
I mean, I know there were some comments earlier about we don't really get to see a lot of our prospects pan out and such. And I mean, that's valid and true too. I don't think we're going to see that out of this particular group, but I also think that there is kind of something to be said about having this many young guys and having them, they're going to go through, just like every baseball player does, they're going to go through some hard times as a player, and things aren't always going to be easy. It's not always going to be a smooth path. For Brandon, it's this rocky road just right out of the gate, but it could be one of those things that really just kind of gets him to realize like it's not the end of the world to give up some runs, and maybe he gets things back on track. It might just be what he needs to get the nerves out of his head. Might also just add more pressure to each start that this one needs to be good, and that's the other side of that, right?
There is some risk to that. Yeah. I mean, the D-backs have a horrendous track record with developing pitching, right? I mean, I think we can be upfront and say that. Like, there have been a lot of, very much hyped pitching prospects that have come up through this organization and just not really turned into anything, if we're being honest, right? John Duplantier, Anthony Banda, right? He was a big name pitching prospect in this organization for a while. Even going back to, oh wow, okay. I'm glad you got
that out there. I just realized.
Archie Bradley,
Bradley, Archie Bradley that's huge hype. I mean,
there was a lot, yeah. And I mean, he came into the big leagues, and unlike Brandon Pfaadt, he burst onto the scene, right? He beat Clayton Kershaw in his first major league start. So, yeah, pitching prospects are difficult. And here in Arizona, this organization has really struggled to develop them. And, maybe less so develop them through the minors as much as like this next hardest step of once they get to the big leagues, how do you help them, adapt to the majors? And, this is the biggest jump that you're going to make as a minor league player. That jump from AAA to the majors is the biggest jump that you have to make. And it's, at a certain level, it's like your success in AAA just doesn't mean much, right? Like, just because you can get AAA hitters out doesn't necessarily mean that those same skills that you're using will translate to the majors to get big league hitters out. So, it's too early to be all that worked up about any of these guys, but I understand people who have their reservations given where we've been in the past.
It's also hard not to be discouraged by seeing Jorge Soler hit a ball fucking farther than I've ever seen a ball hit at Chase Field in my life. The ball bounced on the concourse, and I'm pretty sure broke a beer at the Blue Moon Brewery thing where you walk up and grab beers. I'm not sure, but I have never seen a ball like go onto the concourse and just continue its path. I don't know if a wall wouldn't have stopped it, that ball might still be rolling down here to our studio right now. But there were some more comments from Brent Strom on whether Brandon Pfaadt throws too many strikes, which, spoiler alert, he does. Brandon?
Yeah, it's funny. You should say that because it's very true. He has a great dislike and distaste for walks, and a lot of times as he gets going at the major league level, he'll understand how to maneuver a lineup. Let's say if there's because really a pitching coach once told me the only time the other manager can dictate who you pitch against is the first three batters of a game. After that, you determine who you want to pitch against by pitching around guys, possibly throwing off-speed pitches that you may walk a guy, but you feel comfortable going to the next hitter, so to speak. And yeah, he disdains walks. We will. That's the subject that we'll continue to monitor with him.
Doesn't like to walk guys. Well, he didn't walk many guys, but he did give up the goddamn longest home run I've ever seen in my life at Chase Field.
He had 2 walks, and both were to Jazz Chisholm. And I think part of that is kind of playing into what Strommy's talking about here with, you have some control over which guys you face and which guys you don't. And I think Brandon Pfaadt kind of used that philosophy in this game and issued a couple walks to a guy who was clearly seeing the ball well against him. Like we said earlier, you could make a case he probably should have pulled that card with Jorge Soler as well. But yeah, this has been an issue, and it's something that we talked about in that video that you mentioned. It's something that I wrote about after Brandon Pfaadt's first start. The man throws too many strikes. I think it was a little bit improved today. His zone rate today was 52%, I believe. Last start it was 60%, which is extremely high.
Yeah.
So I think he maybe improved a little bit in that regard. But it's just so funny to see a pitching coach talking about wanting to limit walks, like a distaste for walks as being a bad thing, right? Like Brent Strom, there is a point at which limiting walks is not necessarily a good thing. Like, the very best pitchers don't have 0 walks. There is a time and a place to try to throw pitches outside the strike zone and kind of work around guys. See if you get them to chase, and if they don't, live with the result of that guy going to first base rather than doing something worse on a ball in the strike zone. That's something that I think Brandon Pfaadt will have to continue to grow in as the years go by.
Chris just joined us. Welcome into the sadness. This is a safe space. We are here. It's not exactly pack therapy. We don't know what snakes do. We nest, maybe. I don't know what we do when we need to offer therapy. But back in the chat, the Clutch Canucks said, I noticed Pfaadt and Henry's cheeks get a little more red in embarrassment when Strom finishes a mound visit with them. And I'm going to tell you why that is. And I want Jesse to write an article on this. I rarely request Jesse to write an article, and I don't do it on air. I usually do this off air, but I want you to talk to the pitchers in the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, and I want to get their strangest stories on what Brent Strom has said to them during mound visits. The reason why is because I have heard that some of Brent Strom's mound visits are absolutely legendary, where he doesn't even talk to you about the baseball game. He walks up and he'll be like, hey, you seen any good movies lately? Like, what the fuck is that? And it's Brent Strom getting your mind off of this panic situation or whatever psychoanalysis therapy thing he's doing for you on the mound. But that man is a genius, and his intelligence goes far beyond baseball, like we said. I truly think that he knows at times exactly what to say, but I think that's the reason why sometimes guys are a little flabbergasted when he comes up.
I kind of get it. I mean, as a reporter, I'm a little flabbergasted too after a conversation with Brent Strom, right? He's a really brilliant guy, and you have to wonder if, like, from a pitcher's standpoint, there might be some element of, like, you know, my pitching coach is sort of like a living legend in the game of baseball. You know, being a younger guy, maybe there's some level of embarrassment, or, you know, maybe there's some level of not being able to pull off or fully understand what he's saying or whatnot. I think
maybe you just disappointed him, and you don't want to disappoint someone like Brent Strom, right?
I think it seems like he's a very good teacher, and, you know, I don't want to make it sound like he's talking over guys' heads to the point where they have no idea what he's saying or anything like that.
But sometimes he does talk about very high level concepts that, like, you would need to explain to even us reporters in the room as far as what probably not Jesse, but the rest of us. Speak for
yourself.
Yeah, I was like, the rest of us. Jesse gets it, but he you know, the other thing about Brent is that he doesn't really hold back. He had a lot of funny things to say. Someone asked about the slider, and he said it's because we're using sticky stuff over here.
I asked a question. We were talking about Kyle Nelson, D-backs reliever.
That's right.
Who's had quite a bit of success this year, and Nelson's spin rate is up on his slider, and so I asked Stromy about that. And yeah, he made a joke about the D-backs having access to some special sticky stuff that nobody else in the league does, which we hope it's not true.
Yeah, no.
They'd be
I hope an
big trouble.
investigation doesn't start because of a funny joke. But he also had some very interesting comments on Madison Bumgarner, and we will allow Brent to speak for himself when it comes to the struggles that Bumgarner went through and coaching him.
You know, I've kind of danced around the raindrops on Bum a little bit. I think I have a great deal of respect for this guy and what he did. Suffice it to say, a lot of times I think highly successful people are resistant to change, and this was a highly successful guy that perhaps the changes that I tried to make and what I introduced and this and that, it just didn't take, and so we had an amicable divorce, so to speak.
It's really interesting because we know we heard a lot about Madison Bumgarner making changes. We know we were constantly heard about him working on stuff. It sounded like Madison Bumgarner was actually open to change, or maybe open to trying to figure out what he could do to find success. But based on what Strom said there, it doesn't sound like that's the case. And I mean, obviously, with Madison Bumgarner growing older and needing to kind of adapt, it does become like an adapt or fall behind or get left behind, right? And I mean, if he's not willing to adapt and listen to what somebody like Brent Strom has to say, who in the league can get Mad Bum right? Like,
that's a good point.
We talked about when they brought Brent Strom in that he would be a great coach for Mad Bum because it's one of the few people I imagine Bumgarner respects and would actually listen to. Whereas if they brought in a younger guy, he would probably just disregard any coaching advice that they had for him or any changes that they wanted him to make.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think a lot of people kind of suspected was happening. And while Bumgarner was here, you know, it would have caused all sorts of issues if Stromy had gone on record saying this, that he was trying to make suggestions that Bumgarner just wasn't really receptive to. That would not have gone well if Bumgarner was still in the organization. I'm honestly a little surprised still that Stromy was willing to go on the record and say this even after the fact. Yeah. You know, it does speak to Madison Bumgarner being kind of the guy that a lot of people sort of viewed him as, is sort of being stuck in his ways a little bit, unwilling to adapt. And you could kind of see it too, even though we did hear things about Bumgarner, making some changes, working on his cutter, working on his changeup, trying to throw his curveball a little bit more. Those are more micro changes, right?
Yeah.
Those are smaller things.
Yeah.
They're not the kind of things that you would expect to turn things around for who is one of the worst pitchers in baseball the last few years, right? He needed to make big changes. He needed to, maybe it was a smaller change, but like something that would have a big outcome. And clearly the stuff that he was willing to try, at least that we saw in games, was just not like that. He kind of looked like the same guy.
Cutter.
Yeah. The man loved his cutter.
He loves his cutter.
And the changeup just never quite worked. The curveball was never quite what it was in San Francisco. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but not necessarily surprising to hear about this now.
Well, we thank those of you that are still with us, even though the Suns game is over, and many of you have already abandon us for the Suns show. If you're still here,
and not the audio listeners.
Yeah,
Derek.
the audio guy.
Don't rub the audio people.
If you're here after the fact, you're probably like, Derek, why are you throwing this shade at me? I don't deserve this right now. So we thank those of you that are here, whether it's now live or in the future, for being here. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Sign up for notifications so you don't miss when any of our shows go live, especially when they go live at the exact same time as each other. And also leave us a thumbs up just to let us know that there are still people out there watching us. Also, if you're listening on your favorite audio podcasting app, I'm sorry to throw this live show shade at you. You don't deserve it, especially at all. But you can leave us a review. We appreciate that. Make sure you're subscribed on your favorite audio podcasting app. Most importantly, go check out the BetMGM app. We have teamed up with BetMGM this season, and we will be using their lines to make all of our picks and have some special offers for you this season. Of course, signature bets are live right now, and you can click into the NBA playoff matchup of choice. I hope that there's some sort of sad Suns fan signatures bet. There should be, at least, especially on road games, because these have been especially hard in Denver. But make sure to check out the BetMGM Sportsbook over at State Farm Stadium. That's where the guys are tonight for the PHNX Suns away playoff watch party. And hopefully, there's more of those.
Yeah. That would mean we have a Game 7.
Just need to say that.
Are you gonna move on
those
now?
are all
Okay.
presented by Neutral, and hopefully you get more of those. Happy hour pricing, $6 Rally of the Valley margaritas. I love the margaritas, by the way. The food is also very fantastic. And if those playoff watch parties don't happen, you can still join us for the Knockout Nights Cornhole League, first Friday of every month through August. Food and beverage specials, giveaways, BetMGM prizes, and so much more. We're also going to be broadcasting our live shows from there. So we now have a Friday show starting this week. Make sure to join us this Friday for that. And then make sure to join us at the Knockout Nights Cornhole League, where we will be doing our show from. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM app, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live. But for our Arizona audience, you will get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to our buddy Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
This beer's getting cracked for Daniel, who said, for the record, this show is better than the Suns one. Let's go, Jesse. Yeah. All right. But what do we got ahead? Of course, again, we got tomorrow, the final game of this series. We got Merrill the mainstay on the mound for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And of course, that's always a good thing. And they can, once again, close out this series and avoid losing another series. And they've been very good at that so far this season.
They have, yeah. And this second game of the series was always going to be the hardest one for the D-backs to win. Jesus Luzardo, we haven't even talked about him. He was really good today.
He was incredible today.
He's one of my favorite younger pitchers to watch. He has a little Robbie Ray in his game, tons of swing and miss. The slider and up to 98 with his fastball from the left side. He's really fun to watch. But yeah, tomorrow I think things turn back in the D-backs' favor. You've got Edward Cabrera, a 25-year-old righty on the mound for the Marlins. The D-backs get to face
righty.
The D-backs get to face a righty.
Let's go.
Clutch Canuck I think was expressing some joy about that earlier. The D-backs definitely have been better against righties this season, and yeah, Merrill Kelly has been outstanding of late. So things turn back in the D-backs' favor tomorrow, and they've been really good about making sure they take 2 out of 3 in these series. So we'll see if they're able to do that tomorrow.
I want to give a shout out to my hair twin, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., for becoming a U.S. citizen. He's gone through a lot to accomplish this. I mean, we
flew to Miami,
and I mean, he's
on
still
Sunday night, and then he came back yesterday afternoon, like in time to play in the game.
Yes,
it's pretty wild.
7:00, and he went right to the ballpark. Apparently,
yeah.
Still hasn't gotten to celebrate that fully yet, and there is some talks about whether or not it would be in Miami that he'd have to go, or if they could do like the final ceremony portion here in Phoenix.
He might have to go back to Miami, it sounds like.
But, I mean, and he threw some shade at his older brother for maybe overcoaching him a little too much, and his younger brother for not getting his U.S. citizenship yet. But he said...
Aren't they both older?
He's next. Is he?
I think Yuli is older.
Yuli's older too?
Yeah.
I thought but yeah, no, they were talking about his two brothers. So, but yeah, again, shout out to Lourdes Gurriel Jr. for...
Yeah, Yuli's 38, man.
Oh, wow.
Yuli is way older than Lourdes.
Yeah, that's right. But Lourdes has had himself quite the week. And again, big shout out to him for going through all that. I mean, his teammates are very, very supportive of him on that. We saw Christian Walker with the American shades the other night during the post game, and we also saw a bunch of balloons and Purple Heart balloons, which I really dug.
Yeah, they were still there today.
Yeah, so it was very cool. But there's some great giveaways this weekend at Chase Field. If you needed something to do with mom, somewhere to go, I think it's Asian Pacific Heritage Night on Saturday. So they're giving away that anime T-shirt on Saturday, and then Sunday is the Mother's Day T-shirt that is really, really sharp looking in person. I got to admit, the Diamondbacks have just done an outstanding job with giveaway items this year, because I don't know if it's the lack of a sponsor on it, because that always kind of made stuff feel cheap when you want to enjoy this hat, but it's got a big old Sanderson Ford logo across the back.
It's more a hat representing the sponsor than anything else,
what you want it for. So I like that, but I won't lie. I finally got my hands on that Zach Gallen bobblehead, and it's
a nice bobblehead.
It's a nice bobblehead. He's got little lenses in his glasses. It's adorable. But we also we wanted to give a shout out to the Los Angeles Angels for throwing shade the right way. We talked last week about the Padres and the way they kind of
the crying Kershaw,
and then they lost the next 2 games. Well, the Angels had their own little fun with the scoreboard today, and this is with Jonah Heim, who you brought up a while ago, right? With his ridiculous numbers, 948 OPS. But they said here in a game against the Angels, it said, has a daughter, however, missed an opportunity and did not name her Anna, because then she would have been Anaheim.
It's thank you, Derek. We'd be lost without you.
I don't know. Sometimes people can't figure out the joke. People will stare at that and be like, I don't get it. I just needed to let everybody know what the joke was.
That must be one of the best jobs in sports, and there are a lot of great jobs to have in sports. But the person who gets to come up with what they're going to put on the screen to roast the opposing player,
especially when it's the roasting the thing, right? I love the roasting. Was it Nick Ahmed that got some shade thrown at him that you took the picture of?
Yeah, that was during, I'm trying to remember. That was while I was in San Diego. That was the D-backs series against the Padres on the road. And yeah, Nick, I think it was UCSD, right? Was playing in
San Diego State versus UConn. And
San
Nick
Diego
Ahmed
State
went to UConn. So in San Diego,
And so it had.
Thank you for interpreting, Dane. That's how much attention I paid him. I paid to March Madness.
I know you're a big college sports fan.
I'm a huge college basketball fan. But yeah, they were just throwing shade at Nick Ahmed and all of the bad things that he did at UConn.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a fantastic baseball player. Right. Obviously, he's in the majors.
It was like the bad
point.
stats, like how many times
it was like he got caught stealing 4 times or something in such a year. I feel like there's just way too much fun to be had in those types of situations. So if at some point the D-backs need a guy, to do that, I think I think we'd be able to pull that off pretty well.
I think me and Jesse could nail that job. I think the two of us combined, because see, here's the thing. You never know who's actually tweeting from the account. That's the truth. We both try to act like each other, which really just throws you off the scent, right? But you should follow us. We'll give you all sorts of great advice, like joining us for our takeover event, which we can't wait for. It's coming up soon. It's going to be on Thursday. We're all going to go out. We're going to watch the baseball. We're going to have a great time. $32 for diehards, $40 for everyone else for this game. We're going to have a pregame meetup at Four Peaks Draft House at Chase Field. The seats are really good. Make sure to join us for this one. Games time starts at 6:40. Jesse and I have cleared our schedules. Jesse's not allowed to bring his computer. I left my phone at home today, by the way, which is just a living nightmare. So if any of you that have my number have texted me, that's probably the reason why I haven't texted you back. But anyway, join us for this. I promise I'll bring my phone, and I won't stare at it the whole time. We got a lot of those games coming up, one per month up to the end of the season. Braves, Cardinals, Padres, Rockies after that Giants game. So make sure to join us for that. If you want to watch some more baseball, make sure to use our friends over at Game Time, because they are the best way to buy tickets. Not only can you get tickets at the last minute as a procrastinator, but you can also get the best price on your tickets at the last minute. It's the fastest growing ticket app in the country for a reason, because you can snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. I believe there's a minimum purchase fee. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. You can download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And as Jesse will tell you, it's very aesthetically pleasing and easy to use, which not all ticket apps are, even the ones for the big thing. I'm not going to I don't know. I want to get sued, so I'm not going to talk about the one you want me to talk about. But anyway, I will talk about more furniture because all I could do today, and Jesse can attest to this, was dream about coming back here to the studio and falling asleep in one of our recliners.
Derek really wanted to leave the ballpark and
before the game even started. I was like, I want to go take a nap in the recliners, and Jesse was like, "But the game," and I was like, "Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt is going to keep me here, but realistically, I just can't stop thinking about these recliners. Really,
maybe the result would have been better, Derek, if you had come back.
Maybe. I mean, things did kind of like level out once I left and came back to the studio. So who knows? But we have wonderful furniture, including Saul is back there just putting together a new studio for us. Like, again, I've told you, he's walking around the studio with like a tool belt on and stuff. I'm surprised he's not here right now building it. But make sure to check out our friends at morefurniture.com. They have white glove delivery service. You don't have to lift a finger, do a thing to get your furniture in your home. And you can save big on the best furniture in the valley when you head to morefurniture.com. We thank you guys so much for joining us. We're sorry the results weren't better, and that goes across the board. But, of course, we have tomorrow, and we have lots more games when it comes to baseball.
We have a watch-along tomorrow.
We do have a watch-along tomorrow. That's right.
This is true.
This is probably the fourth time tonight the Damons reminded me of the watch-along, and I still sound surprised. When oh, yeah, that's right. There's a watch-along. Join us Wednesday. We're going to have a watch-along right here at the studio. I'll be here. We're going to send Jesse over to the stadium for a little bit, but he'll join me, I'm sure, during that watch-along. And then we will have our post-series show after tomorrow's game, so make sure to stop through for that. Thursdays at 1 o'clock so that Jesse and I can get out there for the for that lovely takeover that we have of Chase Field. And then Friday we will be back here again for another post-game episode. So make sure to join us all week long. We love you guys. We thank you for being here. Good times, bad times. We're always here together. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at @cap_caveman with a K. This absolute maniac is at Jesse and Friedman. Damon is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. But of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks, and all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you for being an Arizona Diamondbacks fan. Thank you for joining us on behalf of all of these guys here at the studio. We appreciate your time. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's more fun when you have a good second outing.